In the heart of Austin, Zilker Botanical Garden inspires and teaches gardeners, its mission for generations. Along with education on many levels, including the Austin Area Garden Council's garden clubs, Zilker Botanical's a sensory and tranquil respite in a hurry-up world. Since 1969, the Taniguchi Japanese Garden's been a beloved destination, a laborious gift from a former California farmer who had been interned in World War II.
Grandpa Isamu Taniguchi retired in the valley. He was a farmer, moved here in 1968, and when he got here, he was still very spry. I think he was 70 years old, and he was just bored to death. So he asked my father, who had connections with the Parks and Recreation Department, if there was something he could do, and that's kind of how this park started.
When I came to Austin in the 60s, I discovered the Taniguchi Gardens. And it was an inspiration. I had never seen things like that. I wasn't doing landscaping at that point. Also, I went out to the hill country and I saw beautiful limestone waterfalls on little streams, and that was stunning to me.
I joined the Zilker Botanical Gardens Conservancy in late 2015, and then we started talking about what we're going to be doing. The Conservancy is going to be involved in the garden, what kind of projects we're going to have.
They wanted to connect the Taniguchi Gardens down to the pond by the Rose Garden.
Architect Eben Taniguchi rendered the technical drawings, and David Mahler of Environmental Survey Consulting designed the riparian streambed. Construction began in January 2017.
They wanted to do a better demonstration of native plants and how to use them in landscaping, particularly the riparian plants, the stream edge plants that we could plant along the stream to show people how they would be used. A riparian area is the term that biologists use for the plants and the stream bed and the animals that are near the water. They're either boggy or swampy or just a little bit damp. The first thing was to create the stream, and that's about 160 feet long. We had to divide that into 5 separate concrete shells that are actually connected by pipe. This is not one continuous concrete pour, but it's 5 shells connected by pipes that are hidden under the bridges. Then it steps down different levels. That involved actually jackhammering out some old rock and concrete and actually getting down to bedrock. And then we tied a bunch of rebar and steel mesh, and we poured concrete into 5 different shells. That concrete shell comes up above the water line. So imagine a concrete shell, and then we take and we put the rocks not on top because that would leak. We put the rocks here. And the water is here, the rock is here, the shell is here, and in this little bit of space, there's wet dirt, and we can plant the riparian plants. We had to make terraces to match the different waterfalls.
Boulders large enough to sit on frame the ponds and raised beds. They designed accessibility along most paths, including repositioning an historic bridge formerly at the Taniguchi Garden. They planted into native soil.
One of the great advantages of using native plants, plants that are native to this area, and plants that fit the habitat that you're putting them, is that they become very sustainable. If you get the right plant in the right place, the plant that wants to be, say, under the full shade of a live oak, that plant will thrive there. If you plant a native plant in the wrong place, like a wet plant in a dry area or a dry plant in a wet area, just because it's native doesn't mean it'll be sustainable. We probably have over 100 species that we've planted in this very small area. That makes it very diverse. It makes it so that there's not a lot of one thing happening all at once, but that through all the different times of the year, there's a continuous succession of many, many different plants that are happening, and the butterflies that feed on them and so on. It's a very different aesthetic. It's an aesthetic that doesn't take a picture very well from a distance. There's not a block of this and a block of that. We have to plant both for the short term and plant for the long term, and we have to maintain it to guide that succession from what does well for the first year to what's going to be really a good plant in that location 10 years down the line. We have some very deep shade areas here under the live oaks, because these are heritage live oaks, some in this area. We had to be very careful during construction, but the Scutellaria ovata and the cedar sage and the sedges really belong under those live oak trees. We have several ferns, including the clover fern, which is like a four-leaf clover.
Native maidenhair fern droops over waterfalls.
We have the Corella obedient plant. This is a spectacular purple bloom, kind of like a penstemon.
Native wetland and aquatic plants include hibiscus, Virginia salt marsh mallow, native iris, pickerel weed, and arrowhead.
There were a few areas that were sunny. One area on this hillside that we decided to just plant plants from the two major plant families in the world. Those are the asters and the grasses.
Juncus contributes structural texture at the stream edge. It's also a good rain garden plant.
The naturalistic style really takes a different kind of maintenance. You don't just go in there once or twice a year and cut everything down. You garden. Many of these plants want shaping. It's not just wild. Fortunately though, because the plants are planted where they want to be, what you're doing is you're not fertilizing. We didn't use any fertilizer on any of this.
Silker Botanical Gardens evolved since 1946, when the Violet Crown Garden Club planted an idea that continues to nurture all.
We're kind of a very urban society, and we're kind of missing that green space part of it, the link to nature part of it, and I think that's why this garden is more important now than it ever was. All kinds of people come up to me and tell me that this is the first place they came to when they came to Austin. It really made them feel that Austin was a special place. My grandfather actually built this garden as a gift to the city, and the gift, he wanted this a place of peace and tranquility. And I think now, with the political climate the way it is, that's even more important than ever too. So this is a great place to come to kind of just relax and kind of just think peaceful thoughts.
The human presence on this planet is so extensive, and the diminishment of the natural communities is so rampant that these gardens give us an opportunity to do something a little bit different, to make some places for the butterflies, to make some places for the wildlife, to make some places for the processes that have been going on in this state for thousands and millions of years and that we've interrupted. And it's both a practical thing to provide the food and nectar plants and host plants, but it's also in certain ways a recognition and an homage to the natural community that we live in and that we tend to very much displace. But we don't have to displace it completely. There are alternatives, and we can do that in a very small, tiny little space in our yard, and we can do that on larger pieces of land like green belts in our city, or in big pieces of property that need to just be saved and preserved like they did with Enchanted Rock many decades ago. So we can operate on all those levels.